I'd say the very first thing, when you are thinking about how a mindful approach applies to your organization, it's about setting intention. If I could give one piece of advice to any organization who's not going to work directly with us, I'd say if you can get with your people at all the levels that are relevant, right? Your frontline people, your middle management people, your executive leadership team, and you can come to some agreement on intentions for your organization. Maybe that ends up getting expressed as vision, values, what have you. But having a clear set of intentions can make a world of difference, because then you have something to measure change against.
So let's take this a step further. Okay, so the leadership team says, okay, how do you prevent or combat or be preemptive about, we're going to set our intentions. We're going to make them explicitly clear, whatever that looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put them in the employee handbook. We're going to put them on people's desktops. We're going to put posters up in the office, whatever it is. We're going to include them in the meetings, right? We're going to draft a new mission, vision, values, statement or thesis. And I don't mean to sound trite about these things. Like whatever intentions are going into creating intentionality in an organization are theoretically sincere, right?
Yeah.
But then human nature happens, and oftentimes we revert back, right? Because behavior change is difficult. So then what would you say is the next step? Get intentionals first, then what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's why you and I work together. Because you got to operationalize change, right? Ultimately, the way that the work has been designed, the way the environment functions, is creating the momentum that is allowing everything to work along, right, certain grooves. And so you set your intention, and then you set some concrete goals, like where are we trying to get to? To me, that starts the process of noticing, oh, well, why aren't we getting to this goal? Like, let's just say really concretely, you're trying to lower costs by 10%, right, across the board. As soon as you set that goal, you're going to start looking at, okay, where are costs? Where are they coming from? Oh, look, like here's a variable cost over here. Like, why are we spending this every month? That's wild. And then somebody pops up and says, here's why we're spending that every month. That's actually really important. Now you're already starting to identify the issues. You're starting to identify the obstacles to the change. It all started with the intention process, but you have to turn the intention into action and then ask questions about the way things are working. And that's design, I would say lowercase d design, right? Is starting to look at why things are actually happening the way they're happening and asking good questions. Where it comes back to mindfulness is there's got to be an openness and a relative fearlessness to asking those questions and a willingness to explore those questions and space to do it. What you're ultimately entering is a design process where you ask a question and you start to get answers, and then you say, what would it take to change these answers that we don't like? And then when you decide we do want to change these, then you have to really create operations that are going to make that possible. And you're going to have to create concrete linear processes. And not everybody likes to do that, but now you're on that track.
Mm-hmm. You helped me have an aha moment where I was a mindful moment, shall we say, where I was able to kind of step outside of my perspective, because the work doesn't get done unless you create the space to do it. And I think that is such an elegant kind of tie back into this theme of mindfulness that we've had in this conversation, right? It's like if you're not going to intentionally, not necessarily, you don't have to sit down to make the space, but if you're not going to intentionally make the space, you won't have the space, and therefore you won't have the insights. And so it's kind of this chicken and the egg scenario where it might be uncomfortable to sit down and do that work, but doing that uncomfortable work is going to lead to something that's, out of sight, like just out of reach in the current present moment.
Yeah, you said it with the chicken and the egg thing, man. And that's been the big wake-up call for me over the 10, 12 years I've been doing this. Everybody does their first meditation retreat and comes out all starry-eyed and idealistic. Oh man, if everyone did this, we could change the world. But then you see there's a reason people can't do this. And you start to grapple with the real chicken and egg. And now I'm at the point where I realize we have to be able to bring the temperature down and create a little bit of space materially before people can even slow down and start to act intentionally. And then you're in the cycle. Okay, we've slowed down a little bit. We've carved out a little bit of space for ourselves. We can all take a breath. Okay, what do we really want to do for the next 90 days. And then we start doing it. And then it becomes very stressful again. Right. And now we're in the improvement cycle. And of course, you and I are talking about organizational change right now, but how much does this apply to individual lives? How much does this apply to planet Earth?
Yep.
And I think this is the cycle that we've got to apply everywhere. It's been an education for me individually at the same time that you and I have been doing this work with organizations. Like, wow, I need to carve out this much space in my own life so that I can be intentional and take a breath and make a change in my life. Man,